the rest of this, and we appreciate the rest of the SPAIG committee and our panelists for joining us. We're just going to give folks maybe one more minute to join before we formally start kicking this off. Hi, all. If you're just joining us, we are going to give it one more minute to allow folks to come in before we formally start kicking off our SPAIG fall webinar on industry and government internships. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I see we have quite a fantastic attendance today on a Thursday afternoon over on the East Coast, earlier if you're on a different coast. Thank you so much for joining us for this fall webinar from the Statistical Partnerships Among Academic, Industry, and Government Committee, hosting a webinar on industry and government internships. I would also like to thank my committee members on the SPAIG committee, Satraji Roy-Chaudhuri and Scott Clark, for organizing this webinar. I'm Michelle Chardell, and I believe that I am the only panelist from academia. We have quite a nice set of panelists representing industry and government to let you know about these internships. So what we're going to first do is introduce our panelists. So panelists, when I introduce you, please give your name, your affiliation, your title, and give one brief piece of advice that you think every prospective intern should know about applying for internships in your organization. So I'm going to start off with Wei Shen.
Great. First, welcome to this special session. My name is Wei Shen. I'm the Associate Vice President in the Statistics, Data, and Analytics group at Lilly. I've been with Lilly for over 20 years. I have been an intern. I'm also currently the intern coordinator and leader. Just one quick thing that's, for the students for interesting internship opportunity, I think this is a great way for you to gain real-world experience in problem solving, apply your learning at school, and also may help you to decide your future career path. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Wei. Wenyi Lin.
Hi, I'm Wenyi, and now I'm at Pfizer, and I was a former intern at Pfizer in 2021, and now I am a statistician manager in AI/ML quantitative and digital science group in Pfizer. So maybe one advice I would say is that being an intern here is a good opportunity for you to get connected with people in pharma, in industry, rather than restricted to the academia. Thank you.
Thank you. Alshin Chen.
Hi, my name is Alshine Chen, and I'm at Pfizer as a manager in statistics as a clinical statistician. And I have been an intern previously and also a mentor as well over the past summer. One piece of advice I would have to anyone interested in applying for internships is there's going to be stiff competition, so definitely focus on how you present yourself in your CV and be able to stand out by giving more details into your work experiences above all else, because that's where a lot of the mentors will be looking to see if you're a good fit for the position.
Great, thank you. Eve Pickering.
We're doing the Pfizer Circle. Hi, I'm Eve Pickering. I am at Pfizer. I am Vice President in the Global Biometrics and Data Management Group. I lead our non-clinical statistics team, and I am the coordinator for our summer intern program. And I think the thing that I want to say about internships and advice, besides Allshine saying, you need to kind of apply early and expect that there'll be a lot of competition, is also be open to new experiences, be open to learning new things. And if there's some industry that interests you, but you don't have a background in it, you don't know a lot about it, that shouldn't stop you. If you write a good cover letter and say why you're interested in exploring that, you still have a pretty good chance of being selected.
Great, thank you. Paul Albert.
So I'm Paul Albert. I'm not in Pfizer. No, I'm at the National Cancer Institute. I'm the director in the biostatistics branch and senior investigator. And what I would say about internships is we have I'm just going to echo what other people had said. I think during an internship you should expand yourself. If you have any interest in our NIH internships, you can apply to them and see what happens, but don't self-select yourself out of it.
Excellent advice. Scott Goldie.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me. My name is Scott Goldie. I am the regulatory health project manager with the Office of Biostatistics in the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research at the FDA. And my big take-home message is I will show this later on, is that we currently, the federal government is a big place. It's got a lot of different places that you can intern with. It's not just CDER, it's not just FDA. I'm looking at 235 internships for graduate students in mathematics and statistics right now. And we'll talk more about when we come around to the application process. Don't self-select. There's a lot of opportunities with the US government that you can begin to take a look and see what fits for you and how you might fit in with the government. We'll leave it at that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Emily Morris.
Hi, I'm Emily Morris. I'm a mathematical statistician at FDA in CDER, Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. And I was also an intern in 2019, also in CDER at FDA. And so I guess I'll just kind of echo what everyone else has said, that really when you find an internship, really take advantage of the opportunities to network and explore if that's going to be a good fit for you in the long run. It's a great way, even beyond just a project you're working on and your immediate supervisor, just to get to know an organization more broadly.
Excellent. And last but not least, we have Mengdi Yuan.
Hi, everyone. This is Mandy Yuan. I'm currently a senior statistical reviewer in the Office of Biostatistics at the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research at FDA. I was an intern at FDA 2012 and 2013, and I joined FDA in 2014. So I think my advice for the interns candidates is to spend some time to prepare your resume and highlight like some of your contributions to the projects, because when we as a mentor to look for the resume, sometimes it's not like how your experience may be related to the work. We also pay attention to like the candidates' ability to solve a real issues, or how to solve an issue independently. So yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll start off with some pre-selected questions, and then we will open up the Q&A for the audience. Audience members, if you do have a question, please submit it in the Q&A. So one of the burning questions that comes up is, what kind of work does one actually do during these internships, and how is it similar or different from a quote unquote real world statistician? So if anyone wants to take that.
So I guess let me say, so at NIH we have our summer internship program. We also have post-bac programs and people get right out of master's degrees, so they can spend a year, or undergraduates can spend a year. And really you start to work on a research team with doing a statistical research. We have some of our summer students have written papers out of their 8 weeks period, and you learn how to work with other scientists. So you really it's sort of like in a biostat in a way department, but it also has a kind of a government flavor as well. It's kind of a hybrid between at NIH, between academics and sort of government.
Great. Scott, you had a point you wanted to make?
Yeah, our expectations for our students is that you will come out with something tangible. The projects that we select and the projects that we have mentors for either will directly answer current biostatistical research questions that we have with regard to review, or they are going to answer policy and procedural questions that we need to contribute to a guidance or a regulation or something under development. All of our students are required to make a presentation at the end of each summer so that you can put that on your CV. And many students, I'll say 40 to 50%, if not more, that number is currently in further calculation and revision, publish something in a scientific journal, either as a first author or being included on the authorship list.
Great. Eve?
Thanks. As one of the people that reviews the proposals that we have for interns, I would say that one of the things we look for are projects where there's a reasonable probability of completion of that project in the 12-week period. So we want to choose a project that's useful for the company, will be a good learning experience for the intern, but also is going to be manageable in a period of time that the intern is going to be there. And so in that regard, I would say that it's very much like a project that you would do in the industry, except that it's sort of scaled down so that we can make sure that it gets finished in the allotted time.
Okay, great. So it sounds like it's a combination depending on where you want to go. Wei, you had some last points to make on this question?
Yes. So, as I said before, all the projects coming from a real world problem in our research and development, and we carefully craft the problem and the research questions for a 12-week project. We do have also a process of collecting all the proposals from the mentors who want to have a student in the summer, and we have a committee to select these proposals. Which already offers some of the background, even reference list of the problem that's being worked on. So when the student come in, they're ready to kind of research and explore the area, and they will come up with their own ideas, working with a mentor, do their research. At the end, they will also make a presentation, and often, as others said, it will come up as a publication as well. So it's, in a way, it's similar to maybe some type of research that they've done at school, but also it's different. They do get a real world experience and also experience the day-to-day work life as an industry statistician.
Great, thank you. So another burning questions that prospective interns have is, what are the important characteristics you like to see in your intern candidates? Or, more specifically, how can they strengthen their profiles, including their resumes, to be more competitive for these internships? I'll shine. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
I was on mute. Yeah, one thing I would say is programming skills are definitely a plus. So if you know how to program in R or SAS or Python, then that's going to boost your favorability a lot, because that will increase the number of projects that you're able to do. Because like previously, there's different flavors of projects that are available, but a lot of them have to do with programming, such as simulations or creation of a graphical user interface, or that type of project that you can do in 12 weeks. So.
Great. Anyone else have any suggestions on how applicants can strengthen their profile and strengthen their resumes to be more competitive for these internships. Wenyi.
Yeah, I would say like for example, for preparing the resume or CV when you're trying to apply a internship, you'd better highlight your maybe you feel the most confident projects and list out those key points that you have done for that project. Typically, when the people trying to hiring some interns, they might match their projects with with the skills listed in the resumes or CV. So it will be a little bit like, might be better you can just list out your strengths and your pop-up skills in your resume that for us to target on the like our ideal intern as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Eve.
Yeah, I might also mention that it's good to highlight or to show some of the coursework that you've done that's not math and statistics. So if you have some chemistry background, some biology background, physics background, some of those laboratory sciences, and of course I'm sort of thinking about that from the non-clinical point of view, that having a background in a basic science is a really nice stepping stone to some of the kinds of projects that we might be working on. So and and the same thing with if you've taken classes in economics or something else that might be relevant. It's good to have that on your CV as well as your statistics and math and data science.
Great. Scott.
Thanks. We've heard so far we've heard about coursework, we've heard about programming skills, and the last thing that I'm going to ask for on the CV is ask us or include what you are looking for and what you are interested in doing. It's important that we make a good match for the student and the mentor. And if you're going to be in a project doing something that you don't want to do, that's not going to be as productive and as effective as we can be during the summer for either one of us. So if you have interest in certain types of tools and certain types of statistical analysis, we see a lot of Bayesian interest right now in some of our CVs. Please share with us what you're looking for so that we can make a good match, and we can, because the mentors in our division, or at least our situation, look at every resume that comes in. They may do some keyword searches, but they have access to review every resume and every package that comes in.
Great. Thank you. For those of you on the panel who are in sort of a previous intern or prior intern type of role, what did you find was your inspiration or motivation for joining that organization, and what kind of opportunities were there for networking? I'll shine.
So I did my internship in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. So it was on site, and the overall capability and growing room that Pfizer had to offer really impressed me. And a large part of my experience as an intern was networking with the people at Cambridge during that time. And I met a lot of wonderful people that I still interact with at Pfizer today. And that has led me to come back as a full-time employee and continue growing here at Pfizer, because I know that there's a lot of room to learn and grow here.
Great. Thank you. Emily.
Yes, thank you. So I guess, similar to Allshine, I did my internship in 2019, so before the pandemic, so it was in person. And I think the opportunities to network might be a bit different because it's, certainly easier when you're in the hallway to stop someone or ask a question. But my experience at FDA was that there was a lot of opportunities to get exposure to what the work would be like day to day. So I don't know if we really touched on this, but the projects interns do are research driven, and they're motivated by what we see as regulators, but the actual statistical reviewer role is a bit different. So it's good to get that exposure and use the networking to kind of see what the job is going to be like. But I would say what motivated me to join FDA was really The work culture in general, the people that I was working with and seeing how they really supported each other. And I felt like it would be a great place to start my career, that there was a lot of opportunities for growth. And just in general, feeling like it was a good fit culture-wise. That is, something that you can gauge really well in an internship, even if the specific role is a little bit different compared to full-time versus internship.
Excellent. Wenyi?
Yeah. Unlike Oshai and Emily, I had my intern like 2021, so it's fully remote, which sad story, but still good news for me because because it's remote and now like there's a lot of job which is either like fully remote or hybrid version. So somehow I also gained some experience for to learn how to actually collaborate or communicate people when you are actually not meet in person. And another thing good is that also the company adjusted the whole process for those remote interns. So we can also attend the seminars, all group meetings and everything, and to learn things though we're remote. And also in this way, you can also set up like specifically one-on-one meetings with colleagues or with someone else you are interested in and talk with them during a very specific period of time. So you can still learn things even though you are doing remote version. So I really appreciate this opportunity, and I do still feel engaged in the communications and the learning process with the colleagues, though I'm a remote intern. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Wei?
So yes, I'll talk about both of my experience and also our recent interns experience as well. I did my internship a long time ago. At the time, Lilly has a very small statistic department, but very friendly. I had the opportunity to network with everyone to understand what they're working on. And also, it's always open for me to seek any advice. I can talk to anyone. And then just for our most recent interns, some of them mentioned like during the pandemic, they're working online. So we have hosted probably online meetings every week, getting all the interns together. We have arranged topics from non-technical ones like soft skills, how you connect with people, how you work with teams, and also inviting senior technical people to talk about their career, their technical paths. And then starting from 2022, we have the program back in person, and then we continue with these weekly networking meetings and some of the social events that the company has organized across the interns, not just the ones in statistics. So that could be like going to Indy 500, race events or other sports or culture events. And also some of our members actually open up their house to host the interns for a reception. So those are the things that interns really enjoy, and through that they build a good network.
Great. And since some of you have mentioned the remote versus in-person internships, do your organizations still offer a remote internship option?
No, at NIH, we don't now. We did in the past, but not now because part of it, as others have said, part of it is the experience of being here, and the educational program that goes along with it. Seminars and hours are more interdisciplinary. So all the fellows in our division, all the summer internship program, the SIP fellows, take a class together. It's not so much a class, it's kind of like just an introduction of topics, but they're genetics people, they're epidemiologists, and they're statisticians. So you get that exposure. So that's an important part. So we don't now hire any people remote that way.
Got it. Scott?
We are still completely remote. We are still trying to figure out how we're doing this in terms of really our networking events and our seminars and the like, but we still at this time are completely remote. And what you have to be is you have to be within the United States.
Okay. Eve? You're muted.
We've gone back to having folks come on site and be at a site. We give people a choice of we have multiple sites in the U.S. and so we're able to accommodate some geographical variation. But as Paul said, I think part of the intern experience is learning what it's like to work at a pharmaceutical company. And being at a pharmaceutical company does mean being within the walls sometimes. And so we try to include that as part of the experience for the interns. We had a pretty successful remote experience, but we're really glad that we don't have to keep that up, that we've got folks back in the office.
All right. Thank you. Wei?
Yeah, so for our summer internship program, we run the program in person, so in our corporate headquarters in Indianapolis. We also run a co-op program, so that's during the school year, about 16 weeks and 20 hours per week. And we also have students engaged, kind of doing the similar work as a summer intern while they're still at school. For that program, we offer a remote option. But we also invite the student to our corporate center at least once during their co-op.
Okay, so it sounds like there's 2 completely in person, 1 where you can do hybrid or in person or remote, and then the other that's fully remote. So there's a wide variety. So one last question from me before we start going into the chat and the Q&A is the other burning question that students may be shy to ask is, are these internships paid or unpaid? And then what kind of resources are available to ensure their success? Nangdi?
Hi, this is Nandi. Yeah, so at FDA, I think most, all of the internships are paid. And but I mean, for the summer internship, most of them are paid. But if you want to do like beyond the summer, it really depends. I think Scott knows more. He can talk about it. So with regard to the resources, we can provide to the interns, there's one thing I'd like to mention, at the FDA. I always told the students, I think to get the most out of the internship experience at FDA, I strongly encourage them to attend all kinds of seminars at FDA because FDA has a wide range of seminars, not only about statistics, but also involves various disciplines, and most of them are actually open to interns too. From those seminars, you can not only learn about the pharmaceutical science, but also, the regulatory science, how people make decisions and what are important aspects when making a decision. As a mentor, I'm also always happy to discuss topics other than the internship project itself, as Emily Morris just mentioned, like, from a regulator's perspective, those type of topics and, help the interns to gain most valuable knowledge that is unique at FDA.
Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, our internships are all paid. So our summer internship program, I can't tell you how much it is, but it's fairly competitive salary. Many of our interns then go on some of them are undergraduates, some of them are graduate students. And they go on they know what NIH is like, and many of them have actually come back as pre-docs, so they do their dissertation at the university where they are if they're getting a PhD, and then they come back and they do a project with us, and then that's paid as well. But everything is for us is paid.
Okay, so FDA and NCI, and I know NIH more broadly, those are paid internships. Okay, Eve, can you tell us about Pfizer?
Sure, Pfizer internships are paid internships. And in terms of support, besides having a mentor who is the person who will guide you in the project that you're doing, we give each intern a buddy who will help them, learn the ropes and make sure they can sign into things and have somebody to talk to one-on-one, just to make sure that they're comfortable at the site, etc. And then similar to some of the other panelists who have talked about having seminars and to talk about the other aspects, different parts of the company, different we have a lot of different statisticians who work in a lot of different groups who will come and talk about their projects so that you can get a really broad idea of what kind of applications we have for statistics and data science at Pfizer. And then with that, most of those people who do the presenting are more than happy to have one-on-one conversations and do some mentoring, some career mentoring with those folks too.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Wei, can you tell us about Eli Lilly?
Yes, certainly it's paid. And also they enjoy some of the other benefits that we have, like the holidays. And in fact, most of the summer intern happened during the time, May to August, and our company has a summer shutdown week, the whole week of July 4th, and they can also enjoy that week off while still being paid. And then housing provided, subsidized, and they do get coaching, mentoring, as I said, other social networking events. So there's a really good support system around for their summer experience.
Okay, great. So lots of perks from these 4 organizations. All right, Scott, anything else you want to add about FDA?
Yeah, I need to make a couple of nuances here. The FDA program, you are not an employee. You are a student working in a professional training program. So you receive a stipend, but you do not receive employee benefits. You don't receive sick time. You don't receive vacation time. It doesn't work as credit for you if in the future you return to the FDA or another governmental entity. It's a slight difference, but it needs to be made, it needs to be stated, it's not an opportunity for employment. You're actually participating in a training program to advance your studies. And it's just a little different. We don't pay for holidays. We don't pay for sick time. But in the event that there is something happens, and it has happened in our program where something is, somebody gets sick for a day or something, there are ways around it. Well, there are ways to discuss it. Just communicate with your mentor and let me know about it so that we can address it. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you for those clarifications. So I'm going to move over to the Q&A to see what additional questions are coming from our audience. So first question is, are there internship opportunities for international students in your organization?
Let me answer it for mine because it's part of the text that we did publish in AMSTAT, the StatTrack list. We do have opportunities for international students. They're under an F1 visa, or let me see whether the visa types. F1 individuals with curricular optional practical training authorization are eligible, as are J1 students with academic training authorization or J1 exchange visitors, but you must have been within the United States over 36 out of the past 60 months, because the background check that you need to go through is the same one that we do with all of our employees. It's a tier 1 background check that requires you be present within the United States for 36 out of the past 60 months. That does not have to be consecutive.
All right, that's very helpful information. Wenyi?
Yeah, I was an international student when I did my intern. So technically it's supposed to be allowed for, in general, like I was saying, not all, but most of the companies will support international student if you have the valid F1 visa. And normally for summer, you might need to use your CPT to support your work outside of the institute. So, but I mean, the details you need to first check with your school, international office at your school, to make sure that you're allowed to work. And then also you need to confirm with your targeting company to see whether the requirement is something you need to specifically pay attention to. And that is something I guess like you need to make sure on your own, because like the identity things, it's very sensitive for international student, and also I think some details you need to confirm before you're accepting the offers or start the work. That is quite important. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, all our summer internship programs, and this is determined by the NIH, they have to be U.S. citizens, because the amount of legally it's probably okay, but they don't want to process all the immigration stuff for 8 weeks here at NIH. For all our other programs, including postdocs, pre-docs, or post-bacs, we have people spend a year after college, you can be an international student. But for our summer internship program, a U.S. citizenship or naturalized citizen is required.
All right, thank you. Wei?
Yeah, so the answer is yes. I also worked as a summer intern when I was an international student. I think the student just need to have the right paperwork completed. And the cohort that we have for summer interns actually is very similar to any statistics department. And you know how many international students there in every state department. So we do have a lot of international students working as a summer intern, Lily.
Okay, great. So speaking from the faculty perspective, there was a question that says that a lot of the organizations seem to be looking for experienced people. So what do you suggest that the faculty say to their students who are looking for their very first professional experience? Eve.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a correct interpretation of the things that we've been saying. We're looking for people who have a background that means that they'll succeed, but we have a wide variety of problems, of projects that we bring forward, and some of them require very advanced students, and others are appropriate for students who are, that this would be the first real application using real data that they might use. So I think that there is a wide variety available.
Helpful to know. Paul.
Same with us. I mean, a lot of so we don't require prior experience. In fact, to be honest, some of our best interns or people who've spent time with us, it's amazing what young people can do in 8 weeks. I'm still baffled by it. I don't think I could have at that. And we sometimes have people come right out of graduate school. They're in good programs, but they don't have really much experience. And by the end of the summer, they've learned a tremendous amount of stuff and have a paper sometimes. So it's not a requirement for us.
All right, helpful to know. Scott.
Thanks. Our program is 12 weeks in length, and so we aren't it really depends on the project, and that's why I asked Emily and Mengdi to join us today, because they're going to give the perspective of the student and the mentor. Our projects are not centralized. We decentralized it probably back in '95, where the individual divisions come up with their projects, a maximum of 2. We've got 9 different divisions, so we have about 18 programs, 18 projects in our program overall. But it's not about the level of experience. It's about, is it a good match, and do you have the skill set and the interest in the project? That's why our interviews, when they occur, are between the mentor and the student, or the mentor and the PIs and the co-PIs and the student, so that they can identify, is this a good fit? The mentors end up selling their program, their project, to the student as much as the student is selling themselves, and are they interested in it? In some situations, it's not a good fit, and we get students who say, I'm not interested, and that's fine, because all of the mentors have access to all of our CVs, and they can try and find a good candidate that will maybe be interested in their project.
All right, Emily, did you want to add on to that?
Yes, I just wanted to add on in a more practical sense. I can, you're hearing the experience, you don't have to have experience before this, but I can understand it being intimidating if you feel like I don't have as much experience as other candidates might. So I guess I would just really highlight, the willingness and eagerness to learn about certain topics, whatever interests you, that will go a long way. in interviews too, you know, there's a lot of experience you gain from your coursework. And so you can always reach to that and highlight that. And just, you know, look for experience in other ways other than just prior job experience, because you probably have more experience than you realize that you can, you know, lean on in interviews, and also perhaps highlight in your CV and resume.
Great, good advice. So there's one request in the chat to share a link for the NIH biostat internship job posting. So I'm just going to put that out there. And secondly, getting more to the specifics of what the students do during their internships. They want to know, what is the difference between a school project from that work, or a school project from that of the work that's done during these internships, and also what is the biggest difference in terms of working with clinical versus non-clinical data.
So can I just say something about our program? So the person who's interested, all they need to do, I can get the link, but you could just type SIPNIH and you will get access to our summer internship program. It is global over NIH. And what I would say is, if you look at particular groups, let's say my group, and you're interested in the summer program, send a CV, send an email to me or someone in my group too, as you apply for it. But you need to apply for it to even be considered by anyone in my group.
Okay. Okay, so circling back to, you know, what the students are doing during these internships, there's the question about how does the school project work differ from internship work? And then how does working with clinical data differ from working with non-clinical data?
I guess I can kick us off with this. So in my experience at FDA, a lot of the research projects could be similar to what you might do in like a practicum course. So if you're working with real data, you know, sort of like you have some data set that motivated an issue in a research question, that often is how our research projects come about. And the time frame is probably a little bit longer. So you might do a more in-depth literature review or develop methods. But I would say in a lot of ways, they might echo what you would do in sort of an applied class. There are certainly differences from the regulatory standpoint of what we're interested in and other considerations. So it doesn't perfectly parallel, but if you have experience in sort of an applied class, I think it's quite similar.
Thank you. Wei?
Yes, I think, you know, the problem that we give to the interns is actually motivated by our real research and development setting. And also, it's not a problem that people just come in to solve like for 5 days. Okay, it is actually designed to be throughout the entire period. So it has some, you know, technical depths, and most of these projects will actually lead to a publication. So we typically have the interns coming in. Their first 2 weeks is just to get familiar with our company setting and, you know, do the training, getting to know some people, also start to know their project. But then the next 2 weeks, they start to really work out a plan. You know, how do they tackle this particular problem? What type of resource they need? Are they going to focus more on theory, or are they going to do more on the simulation side? And then they do, once that's going well, and they work with their mentors to do the intensive research part. It could be a simulation evaluation, it could be some theory, it could be application to a specific data set. It could be like a method, like a causal inference, you know, people generally learned, but applied to a specific setting. And then the last couple of weeks, they put together their report and a presentation. Presentation is required, but often people start to also put together a short technical report, and that could expand into a manuscript. So I think, you know, that's kind of the full cycle of a well-contained research project. So in that sense, it's probably broader and deeper than like a typical classroom project.
Great. Eve?
And then just the clinical, non-clinical. Clinical is just
Sure.
dealing with the clinical trial data. Non-clinical is mostly like, you know, problems coming from discovery, research, or product development or manufacturing. I think they also have some cool like design or genomics type of problems coming in. It's just different data sources. Yeah.
Thank you. Eve.
Yeah, I could probably talk about the difference between clinical and non-clinical for a really, really long time, but I will kind of echo what Wei said in that you know, on the clinical side, you're looking at clinical trials. I'm either designing clinical trials or thinking about ways of analyzing data from them, or techniques for being able to streamline, maybe using Bayesian techniques. And in the non-clinical arena, you're working a little bit more with the scientists and the people who are discovering and making the compounds. So it's a different, you know, sort of a different set of scientists rather than medical, you know, rather than medical professionals. The people that you are interacting with that aren't statisticians, you know, maybe biologists, maybe chemists, maybe chemical engineers. It's sort of just a different scenario. And the really big thing, if you've taken a course in design of experiments and you know a little bit about optimal designs, and if that's something that interests you, then the non-clinical space is going to be something that's going to interest you a lot. They're really good applications of that kind of coursework that you take in the non-clinical space.
Excellent. Okay, so everyone, it's time for your hot takes for the controversial question. R or SAS at your organization, or both?
I'm going to jump in first and get out because I don't know a whole lot about this, but I'm going to say yes, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, so C, all the above. All right, Magdi.
Hi, yeah, so from my experience, I think most of the mentors are okay with both R and SAS if it's a methodology project. But if it's a specific data-driven projects, you know, sometimes we prefer SAS because, you know, most of the data submitted to FDA are SAS data sets. So, but I think, you know, it's flexible and it depends on projects and depends on the mentors.
All right, so D, it depends. All right, Eve.
Non-clinical R or Python all the way. For clinical, pretty much either one. You know, again, you know, as was noted earlier, our clinical data sets are usually in a SAS format, but we can certainly change them into something else and do analyses and work with them in R. And there we have a lot of projects at Pfizer where the ultimate outcome is going to be in our Shiny app.
Excellent. All right, Wei.
Yeah, so for our regular work, especially in the clinical area, we mostly use SAS. We also use some R as well, iShiny. But for our interns, I think most of them, they use R because it's more research oriented. They may use SAS to help with some of the data processing steps, getting the data set out. So interns more R than SAS.
All right, excellent. All right, Paul.
Almost, I'd say mostly R. We have some, so most of our interns and fellows will use R. Occasion there are some investigators in our group who use SAS, but that's getting fewer and fewer. For us, and there's an encouragement at NIH to use publicly software in the public domain. So R is really pushed for us.
Alshine.
Yeah, I think for interns it's R because the SAS license is limited and it's expensive.
Yeah, definitely is an advantage with R. So we have a couple questions about the application process itself. One is when is the application window, specifically the deadline for your organization? And is it preferable to have like a traditional kind of resume or more of an academic style CV for application?
Hi,
Wei.
okay.
Oh, so yeah, our application window is December 1st to January 15th. And we prefer to see a more complete resume. So it's definitely could be longer than one page, have the publication and other professional experience, even for some school project. If, you know, people have done a good research work during research project during a school project, put that on resume as well. That will help us to evaluate the people better. And then, I mean, we probably have received more than 100 applications already. So
Thank you. Scott.
Thanks. Our window opens usually with the announcement in Amstat News, which I guess came out, I want to say last week. We've got about a dozen applications right now. We have normally about 18 projects per year. We will get about 150 to 175 applications usually each year. The window really closes on or about April 15th with rolling reviews and rolling interviews, because the focus for us is the needs for the security review. It's got to be 45 days between this prior to the start date. So get your application in now. Yes, when you use the Zintellect application process, there are transcripts involved. There is a letter of recommendation involved. So yes, please submit more than a typical one-page resume. Tell the story. What are you interested in? What can you do? What coursework have you done? What is the programming skills that you have? Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for pointing out that the background check aspect of this as well, because that is an important nuance for government internships that may be different from other organizations. Eve.
At Pfizer, the applications are already open. We've got applications coming in and interviews are in progress. The deadline for applying is February 1st. And I understand that the system that we've been using, which is called Handshake, had a glitch early on, but we were able to get all of the CVs of everyone actually imported into our system. So, and I think that the whole system is working as it's supposed to do now. But if you apply through the Handshake system and you get bounced or you have an issue, there is an email that you can send an email to, and somebody will take a look and make sure that we've got your CV so that we don't miss anybody.
Okay, important to know in case you tried and experienced that glitch. Okay, Paul, tell us about NIH.
Yeah, so NIH is March 15th. I think it's the 15th, but if you go to the SIP website, you'll see where it is. You know, we're very different. I mean, how it works at NIH is that there's a giant program, people applying from all biological areas, including and statistics, to the program. And you get on a general list, and then all PIs throughout NIH will individually look at that candidates and pick people. You know, so it's not a centralized location. So what I would centralize, it's a centralized application, but the review isn't centralized in any way. So what happens is when you apply to that and you're interested in, let's say, my group or another statistics group, send an email to the people in that group saying, hey, I'm interested, and send your CV. What they would do is, if they have the funds, they will go to that list and pick you. So it's not we don't sit there and like review the candidates and pick them. For better or for worse, it's done on an individual PI basis, who then goes in and selects someone based on whatever criterion they want. You know, so it's not based on sort of a general ranking or anyone screening, except for the individual hiring, the individual PI.
So it sounds like there's a centralized submission process.
Centralized submission, you have to go to
that. But then if there's someone who you want to work with, you need to make sure that person knows that you exist by emailing them.
I mean, they may find you, but they may not. And so you can say, I'm really interested in working with you on this topic, because and then see whether that works out.
Okay, that is very important, particularly for understanding the government system. There's a couple questions regarding just the whole professional pathway aspect of this, ranging from, are there opportunities for first-year master's students all the way on up to, once you finish your internship, how often are former interns hired into professional positions in your organization? So, Paul, is that an old hand up, or do you want to answer that one as well?
Oh, it's an old hand up, but I guess I'll say it. We end up, a lot of our summer internship program individuals go on. Most of the time, the kind of person we bring back are people in PhD programs, eventually. So they'll come back again. They could do their dissertation with us, and they come back as postdocs sometimes. And sometimes they'll stay as investigators. They'll move on. So we do hire master's degree people through the post-bac program. So we do have an opportunity to hire people like that. So if you're a master, you wouldn't go to the SIP program per se. That would be more of a year or 2-year position. And I would go directly to the people at NIH you would want to work with.
Okay, great. So there's a question regarding if there's a preference in your organization for biostatistics over statistics PhD students, and are applications from epidemiology PhD students welcome as well? Wei.
Yeah, so I probably just start with the previous question. So we do have position for both PhD student and master students. The master students probably will be focused more on programming, tool development. PhDs are more focused on developing and applying a methodology. We welcome both biostatistics and statistics students. Epidemiology, that's not a part of our department, but I do know that Lilly has an epidemiology group, and they may take students for internship on that field as well. As for the question whether we hire interns, yes, we do hire interns back.
Great. Mengdi?
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer the question about if we have a preference over people from statistical apartment or biostatistical apartment. So I don't think we really have a preference. It really depends on your experience, your training, and if it's a match for the projects you're applying for.
Okay, excellent. Paul?
Yeah, no preference between statistics and biostatistics. Is really the person and their match with an investigator. That's in terms of epidemiologists. Well, our division has 80 PIs. We have 12. The rest are epidemiologists. So if you're interested in epidemiology, if you're an epidemiologist, and you might want to not particularly go to us, but apply through the SIP program, and then send emails or look at the website and see what epidemiologists you'd want to work with.
Okay. And that's the part of the benefit of that centralized process.
Yeah, it's the same application. Again, those people would pick off that list as well as us.
Okay, Scott, before you go, I'm noting that we're just at the top of the hour. So the one last question that is coming up frequently in the Q&A is if there's a way that folks can contact you all, or if you're comfortable sharing your email addresses. So if you are, you're welcome to put that in the chat while Scott responds to the previous question.
All right, referring to the previous question, because NIH uses their system, the rest of the government primarily uses the Xintellect system, which is powered through the Oak Ridge Association of Universities. I'm looking at 24 different internships that include the word epidemiology. So in answer to your question, take a look at the Xintellect site, use the keywords, and you may be able to find a good match for you. Our internship point of contact, the email is included in our AMSTAT description, and I will include it in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you all so much. I see that we are at the hour, and I just want to express my appreciation again for our panelists representing Pfizer, Lilly, FDA, and NCI. This was extremely helpful for students to hear, behind the rope, or across the velvet rope of the application process, and in particular to be able to compare and contrast between industry and government as well. For those of you who are serving on the panel, who are comfortable sharing your email address, you're welcome to drop that in the chat so folks can contact you with any follow-up questions. And with that, I am just going to say thank you for attending this webinar, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.